Awesome. Well, welcome to a February Butterfly Circle call. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month. And since February is a short month, it just happened to be on the last day of the month. And for those of you who are not familiar, Butterfly Circle is kind of like a roundtable discussion about certain books and ideas and thought leaders that are inspiring, help us kind of think different thoughts and grow personally or spiritually or professionally. And I'm an avid reader and I love to read. And I thought I'd just kind of use this opportunity to kind of share some of these authors with you, but also if you personally have read any of the books that we're talking about, I would love to get your feedback and ideas and impressions on some of these thoughts. So we started the year, actually we started in December. We kind of thought about, or it just the inspiration popped that is a time of year that usually people set goals for the new year and kind of make resolutions and all these things, but according to this next book I'm going to talk about, 92% of people fail in reaching their goals. So we started with the book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, an awesome book. It's both an audio, Kindle, and physical book, and so I highly recommend it. We talked about that book December and January. And so it taught us how to really not focus on one ultimate goal, but really to transform our lives through small, atomic, tiny habits, therefore the name Atomic, and to kind of really create systems in our lives that create habits of success that eventually will lead us to more naturally reaching our goals versus not. So that was a great segue into the beginning of the year. And then my personal name or word of the year for this year is the word finish, because I've had this lifelong, well, business lifelong goal. I'm about to celebrate 20 years in business as a beauty consultant, as an independent beauty consultant. So I have had, you know, an audacious goal since the very beginning, but kind of never quite got there. And so this is going to be my year, being my 20th year anniversary. So that word became my word for the year. And then it automatically popped in my head that I had read a book called Finish a couple of years ago, maybe more. And it's by Jon Acuff. So it's Jonacuf. So after listening to Atomic Habits on Audible, I decided to listen to Finish again. And so this is, I think you can sort of read it. It's a blue book. And it's a really short read. If you ever get an opportunity to, whether you read it or listen to it, he is hilarious. You're going to just laugh your head off out loud by the way he kind of explains these things. So he said that lots of people, you know, set huge goals, but they never finish them. So I want to, first of all, do a little popcorn style to share with me, or maybe even raised hands or however we want to share. How often can we all admit that at many occasions in our lives, we started things and we never finished them? Yes? Okay, great. So what I want you to just popcorn style throw out, what are some of the reasons you think this happens? And it's not unique to any particular person. It's kind of a common human thing. So any thoughts on
procrastination?
Why don't finish?
Procrastination?
That could be. What else?
Competing priorities or conflicting priorities.
Is that Jenna as well? Yes. Oh, that's Mary. Okay. Yes. Kind of having too many things on your plate, maybe. Does that sound close? Okay. What else?
It's not priorities sometimes. We think for the moment it's priority. After a while, it's not a priority anymore.
Right. It was exciting in the beginning, and then we decided it's not as exciting, or we have more important things to do. That's also a great reason. What else?
For me, I'm creative and I just have too many ideas, so I don't know what to follow.
I
So-
totally get that. Yeah, you have the shiny object syndrome that the next thing, oh my gosh, that's more shiny, and so I'm gonna, yeah, that's amazing how he talks about all that too. Allison, any thoughts?
I come to the realization that if I didn't achieve the goal, I didn't really want that. A lot of times, we're setting goals like, I'm going to stop spending money. But as human beings, we love to spend money. I love to spend money. So I think that 98% of goals don't get reached because they're the wrong goals. It's not because I'm a failure, I procrastinate, I have too many things going on. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's much more, you didn't really want it. If you really wanted it, you'd be moving towards it.
Or maybe it's, yeah, like you said,
you want the results, right? You want to go to I'm going to go to the gym every day because you want the results, but you don't want to go to the gym every day.
Well, yeah, or so I think there are several things in there that he will mention in the book, but one is it's the wrong goal for you. Somebody told you you should do this XYZ, but it's not really your thing. So for example, and the other thing is we have this imaginary thought that it has to be hard to mean something, and it really doesn't have to be. It can be fun. And the other thing is that like you said, it has to be something that you also enjoy, and just because you enjoy it, it doesn't mean it's not a meaningful goal. So fun counts, basically. Okay, Deb, what else? What thoughts you might have?
Well, things I haven't finished just because I've been interrupted by outside things, and I need to catch up on my own stuff, and I just don't get back to something that I started. So it's interruptions.
Cool. Dagmar, how about you? Oh, you're muted.
I don't finish when I set up the goal that I actually didn't want. So that's when I realize I'm out of alignment with my own desires and just let it go.
Cool. Awesome. So I love the way John kind of explains the reasons we fall off track with goals. And he uses the villain. He uses one particular villain in this book. And by the way, I've heard some of his other books, and those are great too, but is perfectionism. So perfectionism and wanting to make things perfect is the little boogeyman that is going to derail us from meeting our goals. So let me read a few passages. So the start does matter. The beginning is significant. The first few steps are critical, but they aren't the most important. Do you know what the most important, what matters more? What makes a start look silly and almost significant? It's the finish. It's the finishing of the goals that really matters, not the starting. So like I shared earlier, according to studies, 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. Every January, people start with hope and belief, and you say it's a new year, and therefore it's a time for a new you. But 100%, though 100% people start, only 8% actually finish. So, and a lot of times people think that, oh, it's just because I didn't work harder. If I just push through, if I really hustle, I just didn't work hard enough. I just need to put more hours, more energy, more money, whatever. And that's not the goal for that. And the people who really succeed, surprisingly and counterintuitively to a lot of productivity coaches, are the people who actually take the pressure off. The people who, let go of perfectionism, who sort of say that, I'm going to just keep making progress and it doesn't have to be perfect. And they just want to just do a little bit at a time, going back to our atomic habits discussion. So trying harder is not the answer. The grind is not the solution. Chronic starters can become consistent finishers, and we can certainly finish. And let's see. Mary, how about you? What is your Achilles heel when it comes to finishing, if you have one?
Sure. So I find that I get caught in cycles of being interrupted or like of not holding space. So I'll have a meeting with someone, it'll go great, but it's like I've always got stuff on hold. Like the dog is waiting to go to the bathroom until I'm done with my meeting. And rather than when my meeting's over, I have 20 minutes to wrap up or continue my focus of thought, it's like I have to jump into the next thing and I have to switch contexts. And I find that this happens a lot. And so it's like I think it's around boundaries and like holding calendar time space boundaries for things to occur. I often feel like my world is pushing up against me and demanding my attention or demanding my reactivity. Like everything needs me to solve some chaos. And I can see that's like a pattern from childhood. Okay, but that's what I'm operating off of. And so I end up never finishing stuff because I'm always like dragged into something else. And I have 20 plus things opened, and so I make little incremental progress over time, and it takes like years to complete, and then everything will complete at once. So that's what I got,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And can you guys hear me? I'm trying to switch microphones, but for some reason, okay. Great. So a lot of the things that he's going to share in this book are what most people will consider shortcuts. And I don't know where we learned, again, the same lesson that life has to be hard. And if a goal is not something that, drains you, sweat, blood, and tears, it's not worth it. I think the same philosophy kind of plays into, well, a shortcut is cheating, right? If I create sort of systems or habits, like some of the habits we talked about, make it easy, make it obvious, make it in whatever visible, all those things that we learned in the previous book, that those shortcuts somehow we feel guilty about them. So, and of course we've heard bosses and parents say things like, there are no shortcuts in life. So what John offers us in this book is kind of some of the fun ways and shortcuts that is going to allow us to finish our goals. So, so it says that it all begins with dealing with the most important day of any goal. So any guesses, for those of you who haven't read this book, any guesses on what's the most important day of setting a goal? Is it the first day, second day?
The day.
Well, the day after perfect is that day. So what that means is perfectionism says that it's all or nothing. We have to have a perfect streak of, exercising every day or drinking water every day. And if we fall off the wagon one single day, then the evil word of might as well will pop in and say, oh, well, I ate one French fry, I might as well eat 1,000. Or, I fell off the wagon, therefore I failed and I'm not going to meet my goal. So a lot of people have this really harsh expectation of themselves. And that's when they quit. It's like they may do the goal for 2-3 days and then they fall off the wagon, and then that's the end of perfection, right? So the day after perfect is the most important day, because that's when you make the decision of, okay, I missed a day, that's fine, I'll continue next day with my goal. Or you say, oh, I failed, I might as well quit, I tried or whatever. So can anybody relate to that, the whole day after perfect mentality, or what happens when you, okay, go ahead, Deb.
I can't relate to the day after perfect.
You can?
I cannot.
Oh, okay.
Only because nothing's perfect.
Right.
But my routines and things like that, I keep them. And yes, there's times where I miss them because I'm traveling or something like that. But I pick it up again when I'm, when I'm back in town. Or I do, if I have a possibility of doing something while I'm traveling, I do that too. So I just look for pockets of windows of what I can do on certain times when I'm traveling. But if I'm driving the car for 8 hours a day, that's not possible. So that's my whole point. But I find other things to do while I'm in the car. So I utilize my time differently. I don't, there's nothing is regimented to be perfect. I mean, if you look at the world itself, rocks, like look at Bryce Canyon, rocks are falling apart, there's landslides, things like that. Nothing is perfect. So that's why I can't relate to the day after perfect.
Yeah, well, that you're great. You're a lot more evolved than a lot of people. So kudos to you. So definitely using Deb's example, you want to just pick back up where you left off and just continue on. So again, the idea is you want more days working towards your goal than more days not. And so perfectionism though will kind of whisper in your ears like, well, if you fell off the wagon on hitting your goals, then, or if you can't do it perfectly, it's time to quit. Now, a lot of times what also happens is people pre-quit. So let's say you have this audacious goal, and then you're like, well, my life is too full. I have all these things going on. So if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not even going to start. So a lot of people don't even start with that. But then once you get started and you're like, perfectionism, I'm not listening to you, I'm going to get started, then it becomes insidious and tries to find other ways for you to quit on your goals, even if you had the courage to start in the first place. So a lot of people want to do all or nothing, so they'd rather get a 0 than 50. They believe that perfect is the only standard. So that's one of the main reasons why people don't finish. So there's this perfectionist filter. Okay, so he just wants to let you know that whatever goal that you set, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to fail. You're going to fail miserably many times. You're going to get up. Every time you fall down, the idea is that you keep getting up. And also, if you don't miss your goals, it's not the end of the world. The term of I fall off track or my goals got derailed, it's so dramatic. I mean, it's not like you're actually on a train that got derailed and killed a bunch of people and it was a horrible accident, cost a lot of money. That's kind of how our brain works. It's like, oh my gosh, we got derailed, it, went off track. Well, you're not a train. When you fall off track, you're not going to die. It's not going to kill you. So it's okay to fall off the wagon. And so you have to develop a tolerance for imperfection. And that's what will turn chronic starters into chronic finishers. And again, he said I alluded to it earlier. He said that the phrase might as well is one of the most dangerous phrases in the English language. Why do you think he says that? When do we use the word might as well?
There's like no hope or all the outcomes are negative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Deb, you got something?
Well, if you're alcoholic or you do drugs, which I don't do, people are like, might as well. They fall off. They actually fall off the wagon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never applied to good things. It's not like, might as well help all those orphans, or I might as well plant something healthy in the community garden. It's usually a white flag of surrender, right? Again, I ate the one French fries, I might as well finish the whole bag of chips. Or so that's kind of the things that perfectionism tells us. So it's important to listen to those voices in your head, and it's very fast. It kind of catches you unawares a lot of times when you set these goals. So that's why the day after perfect is so important, because this is the make or break day for every goal. So this is the day that after you skip the jog, the day after you ate a dessert when you are on a diet plan, or the day that you, for example, I have a meditation journal and I don't like it when I see like 2 gaps in there, but I was like, okay, that's fine. I ended my 21 days of straight meditation streak, but that's fine. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop, right? So that's kind of the idea, is that you want to make sure that you just keep going the day after perfect. That's the most important day. And keep moving imperfectly. Okay, that's the first chapter. Any thoughts, ideas before I go to the second one? One of the things he does say, which is important, I think, is that it kind of not finishing is a lot more deeper and than we think it is. It's not just that we, I procrastinate, therefore I don't finish, or it really is kind of breaking a promise to yourself. And that's one of the things that really hit me personally, is because I had to kind of make a decision on the integrity I have with myself. So when you make a goal, you make a promise to yourself. And when you made a silent promise and you don't finish it, you've broken that promise. So you've lied to the person you spend the most time with, which is you. And if you break enough promises, you start to doubt yourself. So you kind of don't believe yourself again the next time you set a goal. And so you pre-quit, or you create these other sabotaging behaviors of procrastination or distractions, or you create other obstacles because you have this deep belief, and that's my second word for the year, which is trust. You stop trusting yourself because you have, again, made these promises. That's why that's why this whole idea of finishing a goal, no matter what it is so important, because you start, again, training yourself to trust your own word. Does that resonate with anyone? So it just says that the quitting is kind of one of the worst feelings that you have. And obviously it's not a feeling we like to have, but finishing something that we really care about is also an amazing feeling. And that's something that we would like to celebrate. And the other dangerous thing about perfection is that it magnifies your mistakes and minimizes your progress. So for example, big alarm bells come up when a mistake happens, or you fall off the wagon, so to speak, and you kind of beat yourself up, you go into the cycle of shame. But when you notice that you're fitting a little bit better into your pants, or that you may have not lost weight, but your BMI is looking better, or like these tiny increments that shows that you indeed are making progress, again, going to the compound effect and atomic habits ideas, that it doesn't really amplify those things for you. You have to personally pay attention to those. That's why somewhere else in the book later on, he talks about the importance of tracking your progress, because data won't lie. So when you're tracking your progress, when perfectionism wants to tell you, oh, it's not happening fast enough, you better quit, all these things, you can look at the actual data and say, no, I know I've not reached my ultimate goal, but I can see that I'm making progress. So any kind of tracking mechanism that you have towards a goal is so important, because it kind of makes you realize that you're moving at least in the right direction. Another thing that perfectionism does is that it makes us aim too high. So how many can relate to this is again another trope that I've had for a while. Make the aims, if I'm going to make a goal, that I might as well make it giant, I might as well dream huge. If I'm going to go for this promotion, might as well go for the highest thing. And so you kind of set yourself up for failure because the goal is so huge, right? Because perfectionism says, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it perfectly, correct? So any other examples that you ladies might have on how you started with a goal, but then it started to snowball into something bigger because, might as well go all the way in. Jenna, do you have any examples?
I think that's my default. Like I go all the way in and then I realize, oh, this doesn't work. And I pull back. And I been working on focusing on progress, not the destination.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when you were talking about reaching for the big things, when it's really actually big, I remember to go back to like my days when I was disciplined. So I call them my discipline days, when I actually so it's like the data shows me that I did do like small things, tasks daily. So when I don't do it, like look, like when you did it, you achieve something. Now you're not doing it, so you're not achieving. So yeah, like I go back to data. I'm more of a data person too. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. So tracking and looking at
Mhm.
your progress. That's great. Oh, Deb.
You know, when I'm coaching people who want to release weight, one thing I always do is I have them take pictures a lot, because they just are blind to really their physical changes, because they see themselves on a daily basis and you don't see much progress on a daily basis. I mean, yes, you can use the BMI, yes, you can use the charting, you can do all that, but it's really, they get mostly tied up more into, wow, look at that, and look at me now, that type of thing. And it boosts their morale more. So when,
Yeah.
one thing is data, which people don't get excited about, but something, seeing a change, they do. So I always encourage people to take pictures.
That's great.
But that's different when you're trying to accomplish a goal that's business related, unless you see, a difference in your bank account and things moving on. Or maybe you're seeing a whole bunch of followers if you also decide to do a different social media plan and things like that. And then you start analyzing what is bringing those followers, what you need to focus on to give them more of that, so you can get more people to follow. So, so it's just, you do need to look at your progress. You do need to figure out which is working best for you, and move forward. But yeah, the photo thing really is something that really works.
I was actually thinking about it today. I was like, I need to take a picture of myself now and then, as I want to.
And look back at what you did, let's just say the beginning of the year. Look back, see what kind of progress you've made. Because it makes a big difference. I had this poster, and I didn't even know, I was a person that took photos all the time, but I never took photos of myself, so it's hard. But when people took photos of me, I have this poster where you can see, people said I was a vanishing woman. So, that's my whole point, is that you actually see that going on, and then it sinks into you that, wow, that did happen.
That's awesome.
I will add a couple of things, Alma.
Yeah.
So it seems like we're focusing more into dieting or maintaining weight in this perspective, because everyone cares so much about that.
Right.
And
that's just an example. Obviously, we can have all kinds of goals. Yeah.
This should not actually be a finish goal in itself, because I have tried that.
Mm-hmm.
This is, so the hard work actually is so hard. The brain wants easy thing, that you cannot maintain it. So I was a size 10 after having my third daughter, and I went a size 2 within 6 months. So I would exercise 4 times a week, weight train, and everyone kept saying, oh my gosh, she looks so good. It was momentarily satisfaction from other people, but I actually didn't think that, because it was so hard to do that every day consistently, that was not enough that I looked that good. And then so after a while you give up. So I don't think that is a finish, a goal in itself, because maintaining it is so hard.
Right.
So it doesn't even make it a goal.
Right. That's a good point.
Yes, but if we talk for other projects, at least this is my perspective, and might be a bit deeper, but there is this thing that you kind of feel like, because you imagine the finishing line in your head perfect, like you said, perfectionism. And there is also a part of me that don't think that I deserve it in the end, and it makes it harder and harder, and daily thing. So to put daily effort makes it harder. So this is like, it seems to me like I won't be able to do it, and I don't deserve it in the end. So on the days that you are low, especially, the brain pop up more. And so my point is, like, if it's a project, a general project, and you finish, yes, but if you put so much hard work, it won't even feel like a trophy, because you're looking for the next thing anyways.
Right. And, you know, he does address all those things too. So, you know, all those thoughts are definitely valid with any goal. And so, yeah, you know, like I said, I highly recommend that you guys listen or read this because he does address all of those things of, you know, what do we do next? Like like, oh my gosh, I've worked so hard for this thing that once I finish it, I will feel empty with that. I won't have anything to strive for. So he always says, always have something lined up right after to get excited about. So the next chapter he talks about, so number one is the day after perfect is something you want to make sure you push through, obviously. And then the whole thing of dreaming too big or making the goals too big, and then we set us up for failure. He says to cut your goal in half. And so whatever that goal may be, whether it's to write, you know, 10 blogs a month, or I want to write, you know, finish a chapter a day, or any of those things, or, you know, I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, let's make it 5, you know, let's make it a little bit more achievable. So, because then you can actually, it's kind of like breaking it into bite-sized pieces, right? So that's kind of one concept that you kind of bumped into the second lie perfectionism gets, which is that your goal has to be bigger, right? So now when you cut it in half, you're kind of getting rid of that perfectionist excuse of having something be bigger. So again, we also are sort of foolishly optimistic when we set goals. And that's why, you know, resolutions are amazing. And then 92% of people are like, oh, well, I was just kidding. You know, I don't know what I was thinking. My schedule is too busy, all these things. And so that's why cutting your goal in half is important. Now, a lot of times, you can't cut your goal in half. So let's say it's a work-related goal that your boss has given you. And you really can't say, well, I'm going to do half the work you assigned to me. Or let's say you have a certain amount of debt you want to pay off, and you can't just say, I'm going to only pay half of it. So in that case, he encourages you to double the time. So give yourself more time to finish it, and don't set yourself up again for failure or frustration or self-shaming, because, or even exhaustion if you do finish it in that short amount of time, by setting realistic expectations. And he talks to a lot of leaders of companies that, you know, your employees, your team may agree with you when you're on stage setting these audacious sales goals for your company, but the break room is really where the truth comes out, when people are like, what is this guy? He's, you know, smoking something when he thinks we can come up with this new product in this amount of time. So it's really important to get feedback from your surroundings or your mentors to understand, or work with coaches, which is kind of what coaches do, to really help you, first of all, cut your goals in bite-sized pieces that are achievable, because we get a little dopamine hit when we hit those smaller goals. We start showing up to ourselves as finishers because we're actually finishing those small goals. And also we actually have a better chance of finishing the big goal at the end. So have any of you used these techniques of either cutting something in half or giving yourself more time? Dagmar, you're nodding.
Well, yeah, definitely. Well, my job is always to tell everyone to dream bigger, right? So if I'm gonna make you all double or triple your goals, I need to set you up for success. So mapping out that big goal is completely appropriate. That's not a shortcut. That's not cheating. That simply means, okay, I'm trying to swim across Atlantic and reach Europe. Well, how do I do it? Well, I probably need to first learn how to swim. Then I probably need to start stretching the distances, right? Like there is a step after step we have to take. So that's, I love what you said earlier. It's not a shortcut. That's simply working with the goal. There's only one word you said that I dread, that he mentioned, you quoted him, is the word realistic, because what is reality?
Right. Exactly. And you know, and he also makes fun of what the whole idea of SMART goals, because what's and I think you've also talked about this in the past as well. But I think a lot of it is I get overwhelmed with something that is really big and it shuts me down. But if somebody, and that's why it's important, and one of the things he shares as a summary for this chapter is to share your goals with someone you trust and ask him or her to, whether it's too extreme, and then, you know, obviously if somebody's a mentor, to kind of how to work your way through it. So of course I've learned break your, you know, 5-year goals into your annual goals, into monthly, weekly, daily. Sometimes that practice makes my head explode, but I can see when you kind of know, it's important to know the end in mind, because that's what keeps you going through the daily stuff, right? So that when you are like, you know, if you have some sort of a history of any kind of health issue in your family, like my parents, you know, have both passed, but my dad's side of the family has huge cardiovascular issues, right? So knowing that you don't want your own family to experience what you did, that will make you kind of get back on track. But again, it's really having it in manageable sizes that makes sense. So I hope that makes sense.
Actually, if I can say something,
Sure.
one of the ways to look at that, having it in manageable sizes, is everything that we do, I just look at it in the project management perspective. It's a project. Every
Right.
project, just like building a building, you have to lay the plumbing first. You have to find out the price of this first. So the next step in front of you is always a very small, achievable. You can't get 2 steps ahead. You can only do the first step. So if you just look at it from and if you've ever looked at project management software, it's very easy to visualize that.
Yeah. And whatever is your tool, if you're a visual person, if you're a tracking person, whatever that is, do what works for you. There's no one size fits all, basically. Well, the next thing that he focuses on in the following chapter is choose what to bomb. So he uses this really funny example of, you know, the lawn guy says, I'm really excited because I'm able to demonstrate our full range of capabilities on your lawn. So what he was saying is, this is yard guy speak for, you have the worst grass ever. So he was saying there was like a competition between the weeds and the lawn, that, you know, that there was like a 10-to-1 ratio of weeds to grass in his lawn. And he didn't care about it at the time because he had 2 toddlers, and those, he said, like, children are a crisis. Like, they're constant attention. You have to like take care of them, or you know, you have more important things to worry about. So he, in this chapter, gives us permission to figure out what it is in your life that it's okay to let go to, because every time you make a decision to make a goal, you have to know that you have to say no to certain things. And so it's all about reshuffling your priorities. So the only way to accomplish a new goal is to feed it the most valuable resource, which is your time. And what we never like to admit is that you don't just give time to something, you take it away from something else. So perfectionism's third lie is that you can do it all, that you can squeeze it all, you can make it happen, you're like a superwoman or man. And so no, you can't do it all. And just, you know, we're only human, right? So, so choose strategically and carefully what to bomb or remove from your life. And don't worry about, you know, the neighbor that's going to judge you every time you come out and stand outside because you have a messy yard, right? Like he says, a lot of times you may skip on folding your laundry for a week. You know, your kids will have to pick up from the pile of clothes on the bed while you are working on an important goal, if you're working on a book or something. And your family should kind of know that. So for example, you know, if your family expects you to show up for weekly family dinners, you're like, you know what, I might be missing some of those because I'm working on a really important goal right now. So kind of communicate those things and they will understand, because you have to shift your time from one priority to another as you're trying to finish a goal. And say no to shame, because that is going to rear its ugly head off and say that you have to do it all. So can any of you share any practical examples of how you shifted priorities and got rid of one thing in order to accomplish something else?
I'll share something.
Sure.
Am I talking too much today? No.
No.
So on Saturdays, I started attending yoga last year. And I never ever, maybe because my kids were young, I never ever left the house without cooking breakfast for them, like making sure that they have everything, and then I do stuff. But when I registered for the yoga classes, it was at 9 a.m. So that means that I have to leave at 8:30, come back home 10:30 or 11. The first couple of times, it was horrible. Everyone was complaining, 10 missed calls. And I told them, but listen, I'm going to yoga on Saturdays. You guys have to figure out things. You're old enough now. 10 missed calls when I come from the yoga classes. And I go home and I said, no one died. You could have opened the fridge, cooked something, eat cold breakfast, because they're used to me. I never feed them cold breakfast. It has to be whole European meal, eggs and all this. So that was a shift. And they're like, she's serious. So they tried for a couple of times. Mom, you're not here. Mom, where are you? Leaving messages. My youngest one is like, Mom, I cannot see you. I can die without you if you don't come for 5 minutes. My husband is home. They never bother him. It's all me, right?
Yeah.
And I gave up on the idea of Saturday I have to cook and do all stuff. So Saturday morning, they know that is my time. So I gave up on that. No one died, even if they had cold breakfast, but it was me that I never left them before. So I had to do that for me, taking time for me. We started last year, so.
That's awesome. You're an awesome example for all moms that we forget to take care of ourselves and that we are just as important. So I appreciate that example. And yeah, because a lot of times we feel ashamed, and that's what, you know, happens when we can't do it all.
Guilt feeling is like, I'm being a bad mom, I'm being selfish, I'm taking this time, and the kids are whining and all that. So guilt feeling.
Awesome. So he calls this strategy strategic incompetence. So like, because a lot of times when we feel like we can't do it all, we get this trapped in shame of, oh my gosh, you know, and women, I don't know why I don't know, so society tells us these things. But same thing with, you know, be the idiot who has not watched Breaking Bad, and you're the dumb person in the group that is not talking about the popular show on TV, because you're like, screw it, you know, Netflix is not a priority for me right now, you know, working on my goal is, or whatever that may be, or social media, because social media is not free, it always costs you something, right? So, or email, or some of the other things that, you know, are time wasters. So Dagmar, you're laughing because you have another example to share.
No, I think it's hilarious because what it says is, why don't we just give ourselves a break?
Yeah.
And then we just call it strategic. Why not? I love it.
Yeah, strategic incompetence. So again, he uses the example of using traffic lights. So what are the things that you can give green lights to, you know, and yellow lights are pause, obviously, and then red lights is like, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore during my, you know, it might be, you know, something you just never do anymore. But anyway, so simplifying, it becomes a very important aspect of this bombing something. So let me see what other, any final thoughts on prioritizing things? So here's some action items. Make a list of 3 things you could bomb during your goal. So use the red light, green light approach. Mary, you have a thing to say.
Sure. I don't know if it's the right. It's something I'm struggling with actually. So it's not like a success story, but it's about prioritizing and procrastinating. And so like I'm like, it's like my biggest fears come up. Like I'm like paralyzed with fear and I want to break the pattern. So I just want to tell you about it. So I want to move. Like I rent, like I'm 34, like I'm legally married. I like rent an apartment in New York City and it's expensive. And I mean, we can afford it, but we want to buy a house. But y'all, like I've already like my like I'm scared like I don't want to fail, like help me not fail. Here's what it is. In 2 months my lease ends, so like on May 1st the lease is over, and so it's 2 months before, so I have to give my 60-day notice. It's like tomorrow, this week is the last couple days to give notice, right? And like we've been telling them we want to move out for months, but I've procrastinated and I haven't gone through on the paperwork. Not because I'm not sure that I want to move out, but because I'm scared to move forward because I don't know which way to go because I haven't made a decision yet. But the thing is, like, I already delayed it. We're on year 3 here. Like, when we did this last time, we signed an additional 15 months lease, and I held myself back and procrastinated by 15 months because I signed an additional lease. And like, that's how bad this procrastination pattern is. And like, we try to justify and be like, oh, it's the pandemic. Like, we don't want to leave yet. But like, I can't repeat that again. But like, I don't want to say that I'm stuck, but like, this is where I'm so afraid. I don't, so I'm having a procrastination problem. And it's not a success story if I want it to be.
Oh, no. I think your example is another way that he talks about how perfectionism shows up, that it has to be, you have to have all the answers, it has to be perfect. So what I think it encourages you, and I encourage you, is to make a mistake because you can always fix it, right? So even if you decide to go somewhere it's the wrong location, you can always move. I mean, you're not a tree, right? So taking the first step.
That's true. Yeah, I just move. Yeah, it's a perfectionism thing. That it is. It's a I want all the details and all. Yeah. Oh no,
I know it all. Otherwise, I won't do anything.
Too many dimensions of that. Oh, okay. And I'm a pro. Wow, I'm really stumbling over this. I've moved so many times. Moving is not that challenging. I love moving, actually. It's one of I love the feng shui and I love the decorating. Like, I love setting up apartments. It's like fabulous. Could be my profession. I love doing that. But yeah, I don't know like which. Oh my gosh, and I just bounce around and it's all
I would just say journal a little bit about
because I don't know which state. Just it's the year. I don't know if some of y'all are in Canada, some of you in the United States, but it's like a political election year, and so I'm worried about civil war in America. I'm worried about crazy political shenanigans. I'm worried about safety. I'm like worried. I don't know where, like, it's like I didn't have kids yet, so I'm like worried, like I don't know where I feel safe to go and build a nest. Like,
again,
I feel confident in my skills. I can clean, cook, I can job. I have an academic, like I'm an accomplished lady, but like I don't feel safe in America. Like You know, like I wanted Canada to adopt me. Like I don't know where to go. Come to Texas, says
Well,
Dagmar.
I mean, this is
So,
obviously a much deeper conversation,
anyway,
but one thing I would say is,
yeah, I'm scared.
oh, no, only worry about or focus on, I wouldn't say even use the word worry, focus on things that you actually can control. And you're worrying about too many things that you have no control over. So
Yeah.
let those go and focus on the things that you can do and you can control and things that you have confidence in. And it's always good to journal about these things and remember the times like in the past where you've moved and things worked out perfect. So, and just let spirit lead you. And then we have 5 minutes, so I wanted to kind of wrap up with some of the things. But Jenna, did you have something you wanted to add?
Now I actually had a question. When you said bombing, is that actually just bombing things on purpose, like strategically?
Yeah. So
Okay.
strategically, and it might be sometimes relationships or people that you're not going to spend time with, right? Like if you had a girls' night out every Thursday night, but you're working on a big goal, or you're having a kid with a huge project, you're going to have to put those relationships on pause and let them know, and people will support you. So, so the other quick things I'm going to just do quickly, but again, we can decide if we want to finish at our next session the book. But one of the things he talks about is to make it fun. Perfectionism tells you that if it's not fun, it doesn't count. And let me just go through the actual chapters real quick. Hang on, I'm on my Kindle. So how many times have you thought that if it's easy, if it's fun, if I'm, work has to be hard, and if it's not, then it's not, the goal is not worth it? How many of you have that limiting belief? You can just do a raise of hands.
All of us have that.
I know, it's like this, where did that come from? But the idea is just like Deb, I think somebody shared, I don't know if it was Alma or Allison, that we feel like, we don't have the right goals, and therefore it doesn't, oh, here we go. We feel like because it doesn't, like even Dagmar shared, that it doesn't feel authentic because it's not lined up with who you are, right? So there are several other tips that he shares, one of which is, like I said, making it fun. And also he talks about some of the stories and lies we tell ourselves. That's his version of limiting beliefs. So kind of weed those out. And then I want to just finish with some of the final words he has in this book and why this is important. He said, how many of you have heard of people who troll on the internet and poo-poo every time you set a big goal? Or, try to tear people down online. And a lot of those people are perfectly people who lost to perfectionism so many times and gave up on their goals so many times that now every time somebody else sets a goal, they feel like they have to tear them down too. And you don't want to turn into that person. You don't want to be somebody who's been so defeated by not finishing goals that you just, are, that person who just then feels like you're not going to support somebody else who wants to set a goal. So that's why it's so important to figure out a way to find a strategy to somehow get to the finish line, whatever that goal may be. And one of the techniques is like, again, that shiny object thing. A lot of times it's like, you know what? Actually, I'm excited about this other goal and all these creative ideas, Jenna, like when you see these like, oh, I want to do this and this, they're like, yes, that is an awesome goal. Let me put it at the end of this particular one. So it'll motivate you to finish what you're doing right now so that you can start the next thing and then the next thing. So, so those are some of the fun tips and techniques that he has. And again, I'm open to continuing with this discussion next month, but any other final thoughts? And the whole idea of finishing.
I like the idea of putting a different goal at the end. That's really, because if you get interrupted by a shiny object, which is not my case, at least you see a reward at the end.
Yeah.
So, and it's something else you can achieve and, put a feather in your head about. So,
because one of the things that he also says is these dreams that you have, they don't really go away. You may put it on the back burner, but then again, there's an offhand comment, or you watch a movie and then you remember, it's like, oh yeah, I wanted to learn to play piano, or I wanted to do this. And then all of a sudden you get this like feeling of, sadness or whatever. But so it's important that if God, like we always say, if God puts a dream in your heart, it equips you with how to finish it, or that you're totally capable of doing it. So just trust the process. But yeah, I think we'll probably spend a little bit more time on it next time. So, or we can do a new book. So, but I highly encourage you. It's literally only 4 hours on Audible. So, read this book. It'll really change your life. I totally believe so.
Thank you, Homa. I want to add something. I never do that at Butterfly Circle, so I'm not sure what's happening. But my spirit advisors told me completely optionally, for those of you who want to release guilt around goals that are not accomplished. The energy was really severe at the beginning of this meeting, and then Homa started shifting us. So the energy changed throughout the program. However, we can do something really quick, like a 3-minute clearing process if you guys want to. So we can shut it down. This is no hard feelings, or I can run the energy through you. So do you want to put in the chat if you need to go, or you want to just stay additional 3-4 minutes? I don't take it personally, so just let me know. It rarely happens that I'm asked to do the meditation.
If you've been asked, I think there's a reason, so I'm totally up for it.
All right, so let's do it, because I felt that there was that guilt of unfinished tasks and all those perfectionism ideas that float in our minds. Now, if you need to get off the call, please, no hard feelings at all, so please do so. But if you want to stick around, I don't know where they're going to take it, but let's do it. It might be something super fun. Let me double check. Yeah, we'll make it more fun. So just follow me and have fun with what I'm saying, okay? Let's take a nice deep inhale through the nose. Exhale with your mouth open. Invoke your bubble of light. Settle into your body and ask your most wonderful spirit guides, helpers, Divine Mother, Father God, elementals, whoever you relate to come and help with this clearing. Open your crown chakra, allow your soul signature light to pour in, and as it pours into your body, allow it to descend into all aspects of your being. And as this energy flows through you, allow it to come into your feet, descend into the Mother Earth. Let her help you clear polarized energies, reharmonize your bodies, your emotional, mental, physical, and etheric bodies. And now allow that beautiful energy with all the nutrients, all that you need, to enter back through your feet and travel upwards towards your head, and then release it back to the source for transmutation into the purest light. And now for a moment, imagine all the goals that you've always wanted, and especially those that somehow got lost in the process, or they didn't get done. You tried your best, but maybe they were not aligned with who you are. Perhaps other circumstances, people, opinions, judgments have derailed you from your track. whatever the reason was that perhaps you got stuck or you didn't reach your destination, does it really matter? Was the goal that important? Is it possible that there was something else more urgent, more vital, more aligned with who you are? And this is the reason why that particular goal or goals did not get done. So give yourself permission to let go of any guilt associated with you potentially thinking that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not accomplished enough, or that you don't have what it takes. And let all that guilt and shame, perhaps frustration, anger, your own self-judgment, opinion, and stereotype about who you are and what you can accomplish now flow all the way into your stomach area and into your gut area. And now we're going to look at that and simply call it crap. And it's time to let it go. So imagine that there is this amazing donkey, a little ass coming your way. As it's coming towards your stomach, it's parking right in front of it. You've got lots of crap that you need to get rid of. And this donkey came with a cart. You're going to load it up onto the cart and let the donkey take it away. So imagine that you are having a virtual spoon in your hand. Pick your hand and start spooning all the crap out of your stomach and put it onto that cart right behind the ass's ass. And as you dump all that crap, pun intended, you give yourself permission to just take yourself a little bit lighter, not so seriously, not so perfect. In words of a famous guru, the most spiritual way to the world is to simply fuck it. So unload it, load it onto the cart, and let it simply be taken away. Give yourself permission to be free, because there are thousands of more goals ahead of you. And they are actually more important. They are more congruent with who you are. They are more time and space appropriate. So why not embrace what's ahead of you instead of what's behind you? Let the ass take all the crap away. So as you see it going away, imagine that your hand now has a hose. That hose is filled with your soul signature light, and start pouring this light over your empty stomach. And as you pour it and you flood it with your soul signature light, whatever mud, whatever junk, whatever's left in it is simply cleared away, transmuted back into the light, back into the purest form of source energy. And now allow it to be sealed with whatever color of flame that you desire. You can fill it with flame of love, flame of protection, devotion, life purpose. Just bring the color of the flame that you desire and let it all be filled with possibilities, opportunities, new ways of being, new goals, new dreams that you wish to accomplish. It is so, and so it is. Now bring yourself back into your body, move and shift your arms, your legs, and let it be as it is. Welcome back. Now, I want to apologize for using the word fuck on a recording, but it's actually a book that I recently read at the insistence of my spiritual guides, and it's called Fuck It, The Spiritual Way. So I highly recommend it. In fact, one of these days, it might be the book that we discuss. It has helped me tremendously, and I hope that for those of you who have sensitive ears, I apologize in advance. Did you guys like it? You feel some shift? You can unmute yourself as we wrap this up. Homa, I thank you for allowing me to come through with this meditation and for bombing your session.
Oh, no. I mean, actually, he does talk about giving up on certain things that are not aligned with your goal and not feeling like a failure. Like it's totally okay to quit on things that are not right for you. So thank you for sharing that and not releasing the guilt that we feel from finishing things that were not lined up with who we're supposed to be or where we're supposed to go.
Wonderful. And I'm gonna look up the book quickly and put it in the chat. It's super awesome, especially for perfectionists.
Perfect.
It's called Fuck It, The Ultimate Spiritual Way. And by John Parkin. And I've just placed it in the chat. We'll have to blip out all my F-bombs. But rather than that, thank you. Thank you for still being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Dagmar. I appreciate that. Awesome. Well, until next time, it's going to be probably around this time in March. And you guys can send messages in the Athena Circle page about if you have any favorite books you would like to cover, but I'm sure we'll come up with an amazing one. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Homa. And thank you everyone for contributing and participating. Let's say hi and thank you to Homa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Time well spent. Thank you.